So, welcome to Black Girl Tired Book Talk. I'm your host, Storm. Today's guest writes romance the way 90s R&B felt. Slow burns sometimes, bruised hearts, and love that doesn't come clean or easy. LB Gaines is the author of emotionally messy, deeply honest love stories where passion meets pain and healing is hard won. Her work is grounded in Black literature, urban culture, and the kind of love that survives distance, timing, grief, and the lies we tell ourselves. Her stories don't rush redemption, they sit with the ache, they honor the longing, and they remind us that even scarred love is never beyond saving. If you've ever loved with your whole chest and still lost, this conversation is for you. All
It's
right.
for you.
So, let's kick this off. You describe your work as emotionally messy love stories. How did you find your way into romance? And at what point did it stop being a genre you wrote in and start becoming who you are as a writer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to take it back. So, my mom was the first author I ever knew. Period.
Mm,
Right. So my mom was working. I would watch her work all day, and my
mm,
mom was a hustler. She had two jobs at one point, and she still would crack open that laptop and she would write. Um,
mm,
and one of the reasons why I was even brave enough to put my work out there is my mom is sitting on manuscripts after manuscripts. And
mm.
sometimes you think you're too old for something. And I'm like, no, mom, let me go first. Let me figure it out so I could come back and help you do everything. Right.
Yeah.
And so because she was the first author that I ever knew, she was also the first reader I knew. So,
Mm,
back in the day, Barnes and Noble was here. It was just too expensive for the girls. And I don't really feel like they had black books on the forefront like that. So we
mm.
were Borders girlies growing up, right? And
Girl, we
so
calling our age out.
right? Like, I tell my students all the time, like, don't let my young face fool you, okay? You know, Borders was our spot. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being young, like I'm talking about 10, 11, and we would go and I would go right to the YA section and pick out books. But my mom would go to, the black romance, but she liked gritty stuff, like urban stuff, right? Like,
Mm,
you remember when BT had their own line of books? And
mm,
there was different covers and they was real scandalous and they would go there. And so my mom had a huge bookshelf. She had all those books and she also had Beverly Jenkins books.
mm-hmm.
Of course, one of the first books I read was the Coldest Winter Ever, because who's going to ignore those big lips, juicy lips on
Yeah,
the cover, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so books were a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think seeing romance titles
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, um, reinforced to me that I wanted to be a writer. Now, I think I ran from the calling. I went to law school, got a doctorate degree. I quote unquote wanted to do something that was just more stable. And to be
Yeah.
clear, I knew writing was a respectable and a wonderful genre. I just thought nobody would read me. I was afraid, right?
Mm.
But I never stopped telling stories. So in high school, it would be me and my friends at a lunch table, and we called them hypotheticals. And people would just throw out random ideas, and I would just start making stories on the fly, like verbally at the lunch
Mm.
table. And I'd be like, "You want more? Come back tomorrow." Right.
Oh.
And one of my friends was like, "You need to write this down." But again, too afraid to write it down. So I started as an editor. I had friends who they're now published authors. They would write stories and they would send
Mm-hmm.
it to me. And at the time, I didn't know that was like developed editing and beta
Mm-hmm.
reading. And I was doing that really early on. But even though I have a love for all genres,
Mm-hmm.
there's something about a romance story that always hit for me. And all types,
Mm.
could be fluffy, could be urban. The grittier, the better.
Yeah.
Love second chance, like to really like
I
hate.
noticed.
Yeah, I know.
I noticed.
I don't love it in real life, but I love it in a book. There's something about convincing the reader
Mm-hmm.
that like these two people are so flawed,
Mm.
but they're meant for each other.
Mm. I like that. So,
Hmm.
romance often gets boxed into a niche when it comes to black
Hmm.
romance.
It does.
Your work feels rooted in like real life and real consequences. Was that an intentional pushback against how black romance is often framed?
Not at first,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to be honest with you. When I first came out, My tagline wasn't even romance that hits like 90s R&B. I don't even remember it, but it was like 3 words. It was like black love, grit, something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the first book I wrote was actually Bulletproof Love, which is coming out next month, right? It was the first book I like. If you were to ask me maybe 2 years ago when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to start writing for real and just not tell anybody, I
Mm-hmm.
would have told you that my claim to the space would have been urban romance, urban fiction, even with all of the negativity that people, sometimes even our own people, spiel against the genre.
Mm-hmm.
I still, you know, even though you might have not grown up slanging drugs or whatever, that doesn't mean that you can't understand it. It's fiction, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
always loved everything about the genre, but for me, you know, I grew up a little rough, right? And I grew
Yeah.
up not having anything, and I grew up poor, and so I wanted to represent that in my stories. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until that book was giving me a hard time, right? Like, writer's
Mm-hmm.
block is a real thing.
It is.
And I loved my characters, and I loved them too much to just write anything on the paper.
Mm.
And I got to the halfway mark of that book and I couldn't write anymore. And I was crying. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning because I do my best work in the middle of the night. And my husband was like, "You're an artist, do what artists do and just move on to something else."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that birthed 3 months in a craw. And so I'm grateful now for that writer's block, because if it wasn't for that, y'all wouldn't have 3 months in a craw, Christmas with the Menses, Room 214. You wouldn't have Beneath the Harvest Moon. I learned in doing something else that my pen was whatever I wanted my pen to be. It was soft, so it was
Right.
contemporary, right? Like, there's some thriller elements in Beneath the Harvest Moon. I realized I
Mhm.
could really get into that if I wanted to. I even started penning a fantasy, which is not going to be out anytime soon.
You know,
No time soon.
the minute you said it, it was about to come out.
I penned a middle grade fantasy. That one's almost done, right?
Mm.
Um, I did so many things, and then I put it down and I came back to it. And so before it was out to the world, I said, okay, you got to change your pen name, because yes, you can give them urban romance, but you can give them contemporary. You could give them, you could give them blended. You could give them
Mm.
romantic suspense. You can give them all types of things.
Mm. So, what did Black literature and urban storytelling give you that the mainstream romance never could?
Honestly, it saved my life.
Mm.
And so anyone who's read Room 214 and follows me on Substack, you know that I'm super transparent about my mental health journey. But
Mm.
like, I've read other books by mainstream authors. I have, and and I'm not going to take anything from them. Some of the writing is superb, some is not. Right?
Mhm.
That just is what it is.
Yeah.
But I never see myself in it, and when you don't see yourself in it, you won't stop unhealthy patterns. So
Mm.
when I came back to reading, right, like I went from being a big reader girl my whole life. Then I went to grad school, specifically law schools, when I lost my desire to read for fun, probably
Mm.
because they try to read you to death in law school, right? And
Same with
that was when
medical school.
right, that was when I stopped reading for fun. And when I
Mm.
finally picked up reading again, I was going through really bad postpartum.
Mm.
After I had lost my sister, and then I found out I was pregnant right after. And I think I was just so afraid, like, oh gosh, is the world going to take something else from me? I
Mm.
wasn't really happy in my pregnancy, right? And so I
Yeah.
just read. And I read whatever TikTok told me to read. And like most TikTok folks, before you find your people, you find a whole bunch of nonsense or things people are
Mhm.
claiming is amazing. And it's just subpar at best,
Right.
right? And I'm reading the work and it's well written, but I didn't see myself in it.
Mm.
Um, I started but once I found Black books and Black spaces, I felt like, it was a form of therapy. That does not mean don't sit on somebody's couch if you need to. But
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
did find a form of therapy. I felt like people were talking directly to me. And at the time, I was a CEO of a major company. I'm building my back, bringing in millions for a company, and they could care less
Mm.
if I was sick. They could care less about my family. They could care, And I know it was reading those books and literally reading about people who look like me going through being brave, like letting things go, trying to. I know that's the reason why I said, okay, I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to do
Mm.
this and I'm going to transition into the life that I want to live. So
Mm.
Black romance means everything to me, specifically Black literature means everything to me because I honestly would still be under the same oppressive thumb if I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't reading stories with people who look like me in them.
Mm. Well, I'm gonna ask you this before I even get to the next question. I know my favorite authors are James Baldwin and Zora Neale Hurston and Maya Angelou. So, with that being said, what Black classic literature is your go-to literature author, hands down, and why? And if you had the opportunity to speak your piece, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna say two of them. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Zora Neale Hurston.
Mm,
When we were in grade school, right? We're reading Grapes of Wrath. We're reading
mm,
Jane Eyre. We're reading the classics,
yes,
right?
yes.
And the first time I had ever read something that completely knocked me off my square with their eyes were watching God. Because I didn't even know what genre to put it in. Like,
Mm,
yes, there was romance, but there was also real taboo because she was much older than this man. And that story wasn't about their love. It was about her finding self, being able to ignore all those rumors, the people who
mhm,
were saying all of that negativity around her, being able to combat that, the symbolism of the story. It was written so eloquently and I literally come back and it's a comfort read for me, right?
mm,
I read Another Country by James Baldwin, right? And
mm.
that was the first
Ooh.
time Audre Lorde, Zombie, and the New Spelling My Name. That was the first time, right? And I was in college when I read that. Maybe my sophomore year. I was at one of my majors was Africana Studies. It was the first time that I was really articulating what it meant to be black and different. So,
Mm,
okay, so you're black, but like, are you black and fat? Are you black and queer? Are you black and And it was the
mm,
first time that it was written about so delicately, right?
mm.
And I became obsessed with reading everything James Baldwin ever wrote and learning his process, right? Because it's not just someone's word, it's their process. Those two, there's so many. Like I can go on and on. Of course, I read I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. I love fiction, but I absolutely love memoirs. My favorite book last year was a memoir.
That
Um,
that memoir, hands down, is a master class in how you write a memoir.
mhm.
That's a master class.
And even just like so much of my own journey, so
Mm,
I 3 months in Accra was deeply personal because I lived in Accra, Ghana for some time.
mm,
And I, thank goodness for like my black Africana studies professors who were like, if you're going to go to Ghana, you need to read about the other African Americans who made Ghana their home for a while, looking for something in themselves. So because of that, I read a lot of Maya Angelou. I read a lot of W.B. Du Bois, right? I read,
mm.
like, the first time I read The Soul of Black Folks, like I felt like I got
Woo!
chills, right? So there's so many greats, right? In my book club, Beauty Brains and Books book club, I love that we have a variety because someone this month
Mm.
picked Sula by Toni Morrison.
Oh my
And I
God.
haven't read Sula yet, but Song of Solomon is one of my favorite.
Oh my God.
And I love that we have that range, right? Like
Mhm.
blackness is so diverse and black reading is even more diverse, right? Like I
Girl.
don't get tired of reading black when I can read an erotica, I can read a classic, I
Mhm.
can read a contemporary romance, I can read S.A. Cosby, like I can read just all types of stuff.
But I want to go back to the Zora Neale Hurston, her eyes are watching, the God's eyes watching. That is, this may be an unpopular opinion to white folks, but not, and I want black people to hear me, so I need you to sit. That is what the Scarlet Letter should have been. What she wrote is what they were trying to write with the Scarlet Letter. That is the Scarlet Letter. That's my opinion on that. That is the Scarlet Letter.
And do you know what I feel like the black version of that is right now?
Mm.
Perfect Peace by Daniel Black. I don't know if
I
anybody's
read
read
that.
that. Oh my God. And so I'm an English professor and I use it all the time. And it's one of my favorite things because as soon
Mm.
as the topics, people's eyes pop out. And I'll give you a little synopsis. It's quite
Mm-hmm.
literally about a black family that lives in rural Arkansas in 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and dad have 7 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mom feels like God hates her and she's tired of people gossiping and cursing about her.
Mm-hmm.
And mom decides the seventh baby is her girl. She don't care what gender it's going to be. She's going to raise it as a girl. And so the baby's born, it's a boy, but no, it's a girl. And she raises the child as a girl until adolescence. And when I tell you the things that I've taught this book, and people have been weeping in my class because you realize the dichotomy of the way they're talking to an 11-year-old and how disgusting it is, but you
Mm.
don't realize it in the context of the way you talk to people who are different from you every single day
Ooh.
until you see it happening to a child, and you see it through a child's point of view for something that they have no control over, for something that they just want to. When I tell you, it's my favorite thing to teach because when you're a freshman, it's the first time you live away from your parents, so it's the first
Mm-hmm.
time you are able to even start thinking about if your ideologies are different than what you're taught. And I
Yeah.
love it. You come in first semester of English and you have a black professor who changes her frames every
Mm-hmm.
class, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about that, and we're going to pull themes like gender being a construct. We're going to pull
Mm-hmm.
theme about blackness. We're going to pull theme about
Yeah.
masculinity, toxic masculinity, femininity,
Yeah.
beauty, like, and and we're going to really intersect it. And so that book came out in 2010. I found out about it. I was late to the game. I don't think I found out about it until 2008 and
You gotta
2019.
send that to me, and because I that sounds
Yeah,
so fucking interesting, and
so good.
my ass would dissect shit like because that's what I love to do about books, dissect them and just find the knowledge, the real plot, the underlying plot of it. So let me ask you: you say your romance hits like a 90s R&B. So I want to break that down. When you're writing, what does that combination of writing and 90s R&B feel like in your body?
Yeah. So I know a character before I start writing a character.
Mm,
And I know it because I listen. Music is a love language to me. I feel it through my body. I wake up, typically the first thing on my tongue is a song or a rhythm or a beat. And even like my daughter, she learns through music, right? So very early on, they were like, oh, she's on the spectrum. That's fine. But my daughter is so high functioning, right?
mm-hmm,
And music has helped a lot with that. Okay. And
mm,
so, um, music is a big staple in our house. So before I write anything, I have a playlist. And if I'm
mm,
struggling to write a story, my team has now learned to be like, is your playlist together? Are you listening to your playlist? Right.
mm,
And so I loop that playlist on a loop. Right.
mm,
And, oftentimes, depending on what music app, they'll like link songs that are like it. But I feel like all of my music apps have adapted to this taste of like, you'll have some new hits in there. Right. And I'll listen
mm,
to some new good music, but it's mostly this 90s R&B because there was a
mm.
yearning, there was a
Oh, yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
And when you ask where it sits in my body, right? It
Mm-hmm,
sits right in my chest, right? Of course at
mm-hmm,
my heart, but it holds me like it can't let go.
mm,
And when I feel something squeezing me, I know that's it. That's the character. That's the emotion, right?
mm.
And so, I tried outlining, and there's no shade, no tea, because I tell my students to outline,
Yeah.
but I've outlined and then my characters do something different because it's as I'm writing how I feel.
Mm-hmm,
Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to say? How are they going to react? Some of my stories is a happy for now and they don't end up together. And I know y'all
yeah,
hate that. I hate that too. But when it was flowing from my body, it just wasn't time yet, right?
yeah, yeah.
And when you hear artists say things like that, you're like, yeah, yeah, you're so full of it. But like, I can attest to you, like, it's they take control. The music
Yeah.
and the characters do.
My next book is happy for now. Y'all
Mhm.
ain't getting no happily ever. I honestly don't even like happily ever afters like that. I just don't.
All
Because
right, I have a Great Dane here bumping my camera. He just wants attention so bad, so bad.
I love big dogs. I got a bully pit,
He's
but
huge.
I love big dogs because I'm gonna give me some two cane corsos when we move into our house.
So mine looks like a King Corso. He's a Great Dane Mastiff. They call that a Daneth mix.
Ooh,
You'll see him. He'll pop in the camera.
that's pretty. So
Hmm.
if your writing had a sensory profile, what does it taste like? What does it look like?
Ooh.
How does it move? Like when the R&B influence kick in, how does that even, you know?
How does it taste? So it tastes sweet and savory at the same time, right?
Mm,
Because some things I write are going to make you rub your feet together, and some things are going to hurt real bad. And I call
mm,
that sweet and salty sensation.
mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that love a Chicago style popcorn. Give it to me cheesy and give it to me caramel. I like both sensations. So and I'm greedy. That's why the taste came to me quicker than anything. I'm kidding. So that's what it tastes like. Feeling. Oh my
Mm,
goodness. So, you know, I'm big on sensory, which is why I'm not shocked that my daughter is big on sensory. Like growing
mm,
up, we didn't have names for it. Nobody wanted to call a spade, right?
yeah.
But I had, sensory is important to me. So to me, it feels like imagine putting fuzzy socks and warming, like just rubbing your feet together with fuzzy socks. Like it feels
Mm,
very comforting.
yeah.
Even when I give you gritty stuff, the love will always feel comforting because I'm very
Mm.
much so be the biggest street king, kingpin, queen pin you need to be, but you're gonna be soft around these parts when it comes
Okay.
to the one you love. The dichotomy is real.
Mm.
Um, you said taste, you said feel.
And how does it move? What is the flow, the movement of it?
So I want you to imagine water, right? And this, and I'm big on symmetry and symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
If you read my books, like I will describe you to death with some things like,
Mm-hmm.
imagine like a water, or like if you're someone who goes to bed with like rain sounds, like
Mm-hmm.
steady pitter patter, like
Mm.
sitting on a porch while it's raining with a good book,
Mm.
with something sweet and salty rubbing your feet together. It's a very it's a very comforting sensation.
Girl, you got me all comfortable. I'm sitting here like,
hmm
I
You feel
like
like you're
that.
on a beach somewhere, and everyone
Yeah.
close your eyes. No.
Right. So, are there specific emotional beats like longing, regret, vulnerability that you borrow directly from that era of music?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So of course, I'm sure everybody says this about era, but my favorite era obviously is 90s R&B because pride aside, right? Like
Mhm.
people are not afraid to tell you how they feel. They're not afraid to
Mm-mm.
beg. They're not afraid to ask for another chance. They're
Mm-mm.
they're not too proud for it, right? And so when
Mm-mm.
you read any of my books, I want you to have the sense of it doesn't matter how much accolades a character of mine has, doesn't matter how much money they make, it doesn't matter how successful. When it comes to that love, they're going to lay it all down on the line,
Right.
and they're gonna go after it. And so I just love music, but I feel like what music today is missing is that, like,
Mm.
you know, and granted, none of these artists are perfect, right? Like when I
Right.
think of 90s R&B, we think of Jodeci. We know they listen, I know. Maybe Drew Hill's a better one to use, but they was begging, baby
Silk.
police,
Silk.
silk
Yes.
begging, okay?
Die. All
Um
of them.
Literally the other day I was writing and I just started bursting out "I'm Missing You" by Case. And my husband was like, "Where'd that come from? I haven't
Oh,
heard that in
wow.
a long time." And I'm like, "You haven't heard it in a long time." My music will sprinkle it in, or this feeling like typically I start with a Mary J. Blige album. If I don't
Ooh.
know what character,
Which one? Which one?
um
What's your favorite?
oh my goodness, Share My World. That album is so amazing, right? Like,
Okay. Okay. I give you that one.
what's the 411's a good one
No,
too,
that's
right? Like,
mine. That's mine. What's the
okay.
411? That's mine.
Yeah, support, so just, yeah.
Okay. So, what does Black love mean to you? Not as a trope, but
hmm
as a lived emotional reality.
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, all parties are black.
Mm,
And notice I said parties. It could be multiple people, it could be two of the same,
mm,
two different non-binary folks, but people loving each other out loud, right?
mm,
Unapologetically, whatever that looks like for them. That's sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it's platonically, right? Sometimes it's
mm.
sensually and nothing else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that's friendships. It's I when I write, I really try to show the friendships that show one another, because my friends are my soulmates, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a feeling, it's an embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
it's being tricked on, it's
Mm-hmm.
being spoiled, um it's some big emotions, right? So like my characters are going to be messy, they're going to jump the gun, they're going to be bratty, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
irrational, but it's being affirmed even in all even in all the negativity. It's honestly the opposite of what I feel like I experience in the world as a Black woman at times, right? Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
a Black woman in my career, a Black woman in spaces,
So you be
you
doing
don't.
heavy lifting.
Yeah, and my FMCs are soft, baby. They're soft, right? And not soft meaning they can't take nothing, can't handle nothing, but it's
Yeah.
like they're not gonna try to take on Superwoman. They're not,
No.
because they don't need to.
No, they don't. And that's good because they're in their soft girl era already.
Hmm.
And they're
Already.
and that is an experience that unfortunately not a lot of Black women will ever have. That so it's good to be in. Now when people say escapism, that is escapism to me.
It is escapism. Absolutely.
Um that is truly escapism when a Black woman can be soft.
I
Because
seen a conversation on Threads where they're like, I'm so tired of these 6'8" MMC. You're my big dog. These
mm-hmm.
6'8" MMCs. I'm so tired of these long stick having. And I'm like, it's escapism. Just escape with me.
Girl, my escape is with Trevante Rhodes, but I love my husband, but I escape with Trevante Rhodes every night. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So do you how does Black love when writing it is different without sanitizing it shape the kinds of stories you feel called to tell?
Hmm. So to me, Blackness is so diverse,
Get it.
right? And because it's so diverse, I have it ingrained, and I'm a baby in writing. I know there's people who've been writing for decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't yet reached a part where I felt obligated to tell a specific story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, every experience you can think of is our experience. I can
Mm-hmm.
write a Greenleaf type of story.
Mm-hmm.
I could write a really bougie story. I could write a story where the characters are behind the walls of a prison or a jail the whole time, right? And each of those experiences feel like uniquely ours,
Mm-hmm.
without trying to sanitize them, without trying to like fall into stereotypes. I just recognize that Black people could be so many different things.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I remember when I was getting my master's degree, and I mean, it was a good discourse. People were like, talking a lot about shows like the Cosby Show and shows like Different World, like the exceptionalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had a good point. But for me, I always consumed every type of Black media, whether I felt like I could see myself in the space or not,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized there was just so much power in Blackness.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I will never have that issue, but right now the sky feels like, the limit on the stories I could tell.
So you write from a place of freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the one time I don't feel free, um I center myself. So, I feel like any author, if you're not careful, you could follow the trap of you're checking your Kindle and your Amazon reads and how many people read your book all the time, and
Yeah.
checking and I'm not saying I never fell victim to that, but the one time I did,
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a really good friend who ground me. It's important to have people who just remind you of your why.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a Thanksgiving story. Didn't try, it was literally free on my page for like a long time. I only put it on Amazon because I wanted to print the copies, and at the time I hadn't figured out Ingram Sparks and all that yet. But it was from so much freedom. I didn't care, and I try to remind myself in doing shorts and novellas, like sometimes you have to write because it's in you. Whether
Yeah.
someone likes it, whether they want to read it, just write it.
Yeah. Truly. Now, 3 months in Accra. All right. Is it's soaked in place, time, and inevitability. How important was the location itself and for the characters Azalea,
Eliza.
Eliza, and
Hmm.
Kofi? How important was that?
So the place was everything. We wouldn't have had a story without the place.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't have, because Accra was the third character throughout the whole book,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I hope that when you read it, you felt like you were there.
I told my husband we're gonna go visit.
Good. Okay, so my goal was when everybody sits down and they decide what they're gonna do with their income tax, or you sit down and you decide what vacation you're gonna take with your friends, your significant others. I want it to be on your list, because we were hoodwinked, swindled, and bamboozled to believe that things that our people created aren't beautiful, right?
That
And if
part.
you grow up in the Western system of learning, you unfortunately have all these negative stereotypes about the continent of Africa. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest ones is we just call it Africa, as if it's not filled with 66 different countries and nations and etc. Right? So, one of the first things that I learned in college, going to school with people who were West African or Ghanaian or Cameroonian specifically, was like, hey, stop doing that. Stop saying Africa. Where do you want to go to in Africa? West Africa? Where in West Africa? Right? It was one of the first things I learned. And so when I studied abroad, my mom didn't mean any harm, but my mom was nervous because they're asking a 19-year-old to get all types of shots and to
Mm-hmm.
sign all these, the school's asking me to sign all these waivers. My mom just thought the worst. And I, lived there, and I really, when I think about my life, the biggest sense of identity I ever experienced was being in Ghana specific. And I know my lineage might not go back to specifically Ghanaian, but being Ghanaian, but I knew that there was so much freedom that I felt being in a nation where there was so much blackness, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was so much freedom in learning what potentially could be my identity or what could be a part of my people's culture. And I couldn't have put that story anywhere else, right? Because the plot of 3 Months in a Cry isn't super complicated, right? You don't have
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of moving like parts the way you do in some of my other stories, but that's okay. It wasn't meant to be, right? It was
Yeah.
supposed to be a girl who was finding herself. She was
Yeah.
falling in love and finding herself at the same time.
Yeah. When you was talking about the lineage, I was thinking about because my family did a whole thing, my whole entire big ass family, and we found out what is it, Benin
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and Senegal.
Okay.
So that's where the roots are, and um, some type of Native American. I don't fucking know, but I do know those
Mm-hmm.
two, and it was shocking because my maiden last name is of English descent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, So I wanted to, because right now I'm going through the process of trying to get my dual citizenship. So, yeah. So I advise everybody to do that because this
Mm-hmm.
country ain't shit. Um,
So I have that as well. My family's Trinidadian, well, from Trinidad, so I have dual citizenship in Trinidad. So
yeah, I'm in the
I do
process.
recommend that. Yeah.
I recommend any black person to do that. The story leans heavily into also timing, distance, and what ifs. Do you believe some loves are meant to change us more than they're meant to last?
Oh, absolutely. I believe people have multiple soulmates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Some people touched your life. They were supposed to teach you something about yourself, something about the way you love, something about the way you meant to be loved, and they weren't supposed to be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it really could have went either way. I believe if Kofi did not come back for that girl, he still was going to be the love of her life. That doesn't mean she
Yeah.
couldn't have loved anybody else, right? But it was what he came to teach her about herself and what he was able to open her up to, and vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's important. And
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, and I wanted to play with that idea of growing up. I remember this idea of like, well, what if the person that I'm supposed to be with is not even in this country? What if they're on the other side of the world? So that was also a little bit of play on that as well.
I used to ask that question daily. Before I got married, I used to ask that question daily. So, Eliza and Kofi, they met again years later. They're older, they're wiser now, but not untouched to life.
Yeah.
How do you approach writing love that's been interrupted by life?
So it's the hardest type to write, but it's the most rewarding. Um, when I think about my favorite stories, oddly enough, they all end up are second chance stories, which I guess tells me
Yes.
why I keep going back to second chance stories myself, because there's something so beautiful to people. Again, I
Mm.
think in music, gotta find my way back, way back. Like my brain is like a musical all day long for real. And there's something so beautiful about you're so tethered by life,
Mhm.
but because you're tethered by life, if you are able to find your person, you're able to reconnect, it just makes it that much sweeter.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I don't know if anybody got on that parachute ride with Vin and Tally, but when they finally Vin and Tally, but when they finally got it together, it was so rewarding. I'll just say that.
Mm. Now let's talk about Room 214.
Okay. Okay.
This book thrives on this contrast of structure versus spontaneity, planning versus presence. What drew you to pairing Sana and Ezra the way you did?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to write a forced proximity book. It's one of my
Mm.
favorite tropes ever. Like every time I read one, I just it's like that's what I want to do on a Friday night. I want to pour a good drink and read two people that are forced to share a bed or forced to share a room. So I knew that was the only thing that I knew I wanted to do with that book. But when it came to me, I was like, in order for y'all to see how beautiful Sanaa is, right?
Mm.
And not just beauty. Yes, I describe that she's beautiful, but
Yeah.
in order for you to see her mind, because she has a mental disability, in order for you to see her as beautiful, you needed the contrast, and he had to be on a complete different side. Like someone
Mm.
just as high strung as her, it wouldn't have highlighted who she was, which is what she's on the cover alone, right? And
Mm.
some people will tell me Ezra's my favorite MMC they wrote, and I'm like, oh, I love that, right? But the story wasn't about him. It wasn't about him at all. It really wasn't. I mean, very early on, I have had the pleasure of knowing so many Virgos, right? And so I know
Mhm.
that Virgos. I'm not a Virgo myself. I'm a Taurus, and yes, I'm Miss
Oh
Cleo. I
my
believe
God,
in
you the same
zodiac
sign as
sign.
my husband?
I not too much, not
Yo.
too much on our tourists, but I always say I have the privilege of being around so many Virgos. My mom's a
Mhm.
Virgo, my brother's a Virgo, so many of my best friends are Virgos, and when I meet people in this space and we click really well, when I find out they're Virgos, um, I'm like, oh, that tracks. And
Mhm.
so very type A people, right?
Mhm.
And so am I. And so I have unfortunately watched so many Black women specifically get this bad name as being divas, as being difficult, as being
Mm.
unlovable. And it's like you're misreading them. They are just anxious,
Yeah.
nervous, type A.
Yeah.
They the control that you think they have to have over a situation is actually comforting for them, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you, it's everything to do about them. And so I
Mhm.
knew that I was going to write that type of FMC. And
Mm.
I knew that if she had someone, she couldn't have had her, even though I love my rough, like I love
Yeah.
men that are a little rough, like, and Sanaa, they would have been fighting in that room. They wouldn't have been lovemaking. It would have been it's
Yeah.
WWE SmackDown.
Yeah.
Um, I needed something different. That doesn't mean that Ezra doesn't have something to him. Like you're not going to talk to me crazy, woman. But he's so easygoing and he's so relaxed, and not because the
Mhm.
world hasn't given him trials. He just realizes the trials are going to come anyway.
Yeah.
So we might as well ride that wave, right?
Yeah. The hurricane forces intimacy through stillness and disruption. How do external chaos and emotional vulnerability mirror each other in this story?
Yeah. Well, you just said it. So y'all know I'm symbolism, right? So I told you I'm one of my
Mhm.
favorite books is Their Eyes Are Watching God. There's a presence of water that happens throughout almost all of my books. And it's
Mhm.
it's not accidental. right?
Mhm.
So I want y'all to see kind of the water as a hurricane kind of stirring up
Mhm.
in and through Sanaa, right? For
Mhm.
this, like she's working so hard to the point where she has to leave her job because her body's failing her. Then she starts the social capital, and it's like I want y'all to see it almost like the tension is going up her spine. And when it
Mm.
finally just explodes is when she can't control anything. She can't control that she's stuck. She can't control being in Sanaa. She can't control, but after, what do they say? After a storm comes the rainbow, right? Or
Yeah.
after her, And so Sanaa, Ezra is her after. She has now exploded,
Do
right?
you feel that it's spiritual because that felt the her whole dynamic of life being too much, just just playing on her top, just life being too much, and the after effect of all of that. Do you see that as almost like a spiritual of exhaling?
Absolutely. And that was the first time I wasn't really afraid to go there with Spice because I used sex and erotica specifically as the release. Of course, it's a physical release, but I
Mm-hmm.
used it as an emotional like
Mm-hmm.
release that you can see. Like each time they were intimate, even starting with her pleasuring herself, it was chipping away at her release,
Mm-hmm.
right? Until she was able to exhale.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a tool. And there was people who, unfortunately, you're in this space. Even if you don't tag
Yeah.
authors, we see it. They're like, it was too much. There wasn't enough plot. That's fine. The girls who get it get it. The people who don't. Right? Like, I don't know what to tell you. You'll get it on your way home. You'll catch it on your way home.
I honestly, what I got from it was just what I was saying. I felt like it was such a buildup. And I wasn't even just looking at the surface level. It was like underneath all that, it was such a buildup of life, a buildup of pressure that demanded her attention but didn't give her shit back. And it was just during the intimacy, it I, people say soul ties all the time. And it's just to me, maybe I'm just looking too deep into it, but that's what I saw. I just saw the release, the exhale, the soul tie, the I can be okay to be not okay type situation.
Yeah.
So that's what I got from it. I don't know what
No,
the fuck that
no,
person
no.
was talking about.
That's what you're supposed to get from it. And if you read the book closely, there's no way Ezra's not coming back for that girl. No way. Even if I don't write another word, that man's him sending those pictures was like, I know where you are. You know that I know that we both know. I can pull up on you at any time, any place. Again, you see where my mind goes with the music? You see any place. Um
I liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Do you believe detours like missed flights, delays, storms, are some of the most honest places to find love?
I do. And even if it's not a love of other people, a love for yourself, right? And I know that
Mm-hmm.
sounds like the cop out answer, but you know, I am an extreme type A person.
Mm-hmm.
I quite literally got stuck in another country, right? Like me and my friend went away for like what was supposed to be like some calming, relaxing cruise. We did a cruise of the Grecian Isles and I couldn't get home. It took me like 4 or 5 days to get home. And she's a flight attendant and it was like a big storm and they needed her. So I was by myself. And while I was by myself for those days, I just people watched.
Mm.
I watched people be bold enough to walk up and introduce themselves to airports and exchange numbers, right? Like we were all stuck.
Yeah.
And my mind just started turning. Like I feel like when you just watch, like and
Yeah.
you pick up on things, and my mind instantly was like, what if this? And for me, even though I was so annoyed, I was so ready to get back to my child, but I have a 3-year-old who's very hyper. I hardly get a moment of peace or quiet. That's why I got to do everything at nighttime when she sleeps, and then I stay up too late, and then I'm tired. I was like, this detour was the rest I needed. So for me, it wasn't
Mm.
necessarily like falling in love, but I have to fall in love with myself again, because too often your identity becomes wrapped in being a wife, being a partner, being a mom, being an
Mm.
executive, being a whatever it is, fill in that blank.
Yeah.
So I believe that forced layovers happen.
Mm.
And one of the things a lady has said to me is, again, I'm stuck in my airport and they misplaced my baggage, so I'm now buying T-shirts. I'm now buying things, right, to wear. And as I'm buying this expensive polo shirt from a golf store, she's
Mm.
just like, "Baby, sometimes you're right where you're not supposed to be on them planes right now. You don't know what they doing.
Mm.
Say thank you," right? And so
Mm.
you know, just little conversations, little things, just
Yeah.
continue for me to reinforce that, there's so
Yeah.
many sanas in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, let's get into 109. Hold on. Hold on one second. Mm.
let me take that drink.
Yo, you have a very nasty mind. Now, uh, 109 feels like um it feels like that song Moment of Love. The ebbs and flows of an orgasm.
Yeah. Hmm.
It also is a mediation into understanding shame.
Hmm.
So when did wanting, just riddle me this, like when did wanting, especially for women, black women, become something we're taught to apologize for?
If you're asking the history scholar in me, it was forced on us by whiteness right around the time Jim Crow, when we created caricatures of black women.
Mm-hmm.
This woman's the Mamie. This woman's the Jezebel. This woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was learned and pushed on us by culture, but it wasn't learned. It wasn't by our own people. We adopted that in
We did.
time.
We did.
And it has us in a chokehold. So I feel like most black folks, I grew up super in the church, preacher's kid. My mom's the
Mm-hmm.
first lady of a church now, right? Like, and the amount of times it was beat in my head what a lady was supposed to be. That was beat in my head more than good grades. Well, I remember when I found out I was pregnant and everybody was like, great job, I'm proud of you. And I remember thinking, what you proud of me for? You're only saying that because I'm married and I did I did things the way that
Yeah.
y'all quote unquote. And it was just, it was beat into us. And so I knew that, you know, you had CM Barnes as a guest in here. Well, we decided, it was also a store of ours. When we decided we were going to do a joint project, myself, CM Barnes, and Dia Fro, I knew that I was going to have to be different here. And I
Mm.
was going to let a different side. But I even had to check my own self for that politics of respectability, because I didn't know how to go. I was excited about the project. I said yes because I felt like 2025 was my year of yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know how to go about it.
Mm.
And I was trying to attack it from every angle. And so where Ava came from is I said, well, I'm going to attack it from the exact angle I struggle with. Ava
Mm.
is going to be what most black women are taught to be.
Mm.
Behind closed doors, you could be wherever you want, but I need you to be docile, right? Even though you're so successful, even though you make seven figures, even though you have great friends, even though I still want you to buy in to all of this rhetoric of the male gaze about what you're supposed to want and who you're supposed to be sexually. And it
Mm.
seems so simple, but the amount of DMs, and I'm talking about not just women, that people who like span ages. I get the most of them for people in their like 40s or 50s. And it's like, thank you, because I'm still struggling with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
At my age. And, why I went there is books like Enigma, right? Like I feel like something is shifting in the book space with the erotica girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
India T. Norfleet, right? Like Lily Flower. Something is shifting with the way we're writing, and we're like, read it or don't read it, but my pen is gonna go there.
I honestly, I feel like People don't understand you don't hit that peak until you're in your 40s. You know what I'm saying? That peak of, I never understood my own sexuality. I never
Mhm.
understood what pleasure really meant. And I never understood why I felt ashamed to say that I wanted it or
Mhm.
took what I wanted from a man, knowing that it was not satisfying, or from a woman or whoever.
Or
So
whoever.
I feel like in our 40s, we're teaching the younger women it is okay to desire. It is okay to say what you want, and it's okay to be as nasty as you want.
It's so I think it was Aria Days right on Threads. It was first thing in the morning. She was like, "Girl, get that train ran on you." And I like when she put it on Threads. I love that it was all over the timeline because I'm just like, think about what's your earliest memory of when you were taught good girls do this, good
Mhm.
girls don't do this. And for me, it was like beat in my head. I think the earliest memory is like 10 or 11. That's a long time. Like
Mhm.
I sit around and me and my friends, we relive our college days or whatever. And the number one regret they all said, and I should have hoed. Right? Like every single one of them. It's so
Yeah.
funny. Or when I meet folks who have been married with kids or whatever, and they're like, the amount of women who tell me I never had a hoe phase. I never did. Like I never. It's so many, and it's like you didn't do the things you wanted to, or maybe even you didn't want to do, but you didn't even allow yourself to explore it because somebody somewhere along the line told you
Mhm.
that you was
Mhm.
going to get a scarlet letter, going back to
Mhm.
their eyes are watching God. Somebody was going to put an S on your chest.
Girl, I this is why I love your book. Um, being a dom, me being a dom, being in BDSM, being in a position of I know my sexuality, I know what I want, what I don't want, and I know how to give it. Toot, yes, my horn is tooting, but I know how to give it.
Mm-hmm.
But it took even I've been in the BDSM world since I was 20. And it took for me to get in my early late 30s to really pinpoint me. I knew how to give, but not how to receive. And as a older woman, I'm just like, why the fuck do I worry about your ass? What about me? What
Yeah.
about me? And just learning things about your body. Sometimes it don't have to include anybody.
It
You know what
don't.
I'm saying? And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when you read books like yours and like India T. Northley, when you read those books, you understand it is okay to not know what an orgasm is, but it's also okay to teach your body to know what an orgasm is.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it was so important for me to start the book at a toy party. So I used to be what I call like a pleasure consultant. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to work for one of those companies, and the amount of times I would meet women who they would say, a man has never made me orgasm or someone's never made me orgasm. I'd say, okay, well, have you ever made yourself orgasm? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, so the line where I said every night before bed, lady loves, like I would literally giving out homework. Okay. Your
Mm-hmm.
homework tonight is to go home, pull it out, make yourself squirt. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is your homework. And they'd be looking at me like, what, huh? And I'm like, I don't even care how good someone is in bed. When you're with someone a long time, you gotta spice it up. How you
Yeah.
gonna spice it up if you don't know what you like?
That part.
You don't know what makes you tick.
That part.
You don't
That
know how
part.
much you can take.
That part.
You ever
That
get
part.
different sizes and just
That part. But that's why it's important. And I say this with all good intentions. That's why I think it's important for Black authors who feel the need to write erotica. To write erotica.
Mhm.
I think that stuff you were talking about, the shame and the you gotta be married, you got to do this, you can't be, freaky and everybody know about it. I think having erotica books by Black authors give permission for Black readers who are of age and younger to explore and really think in themselves. This is why I say you could tell a real erotica fan because a real erotica fan is looking for the details. It's not just the sex. A lot of times people say erotica has no plot. No, you're not understanding it because you don't know yourself. So y'all are needed. Y'all are needed. So, all right, Ava is successful, but she's dissatisfied.
So dissatisfied.
How do you write the quiet loneliness that exists even when everything looks perfect on paper?
Mm-hmm. So it's all in the description of their movements,
Mm,
how they hang their head, how they cast their eyes down, right? And
mm,
so um at B3, one of the book events last year, Christina C. Jones said, artists work on your craft, right?
mm,
And so as an English professor, I spent a lot of time, and a lot of my mentors in the space, like El Case, and they were like, get in those thesaurus, get in those how to write books. And I know people hate those self help books, but like authors, you got to read them from time to time when it comes to writing.
I got about five thesaurus.
And one of the things that they talk about is, especially when you're writing short, like I really like to write novellas because, you know, I'm a grant writer, and when you're a grant writer, or when when
Mm,
you have like a legal background, you're taught to write succinctly. So
mm-hmm.
to go from that to trying to write a 500 to 600 page novel is hard. I think that's so hard. I take my hat to all the long writers. That's difficult for Elmo. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned is when you have a short amount of time, I read a lot of novellas, it's like, how do I make you feel a thing quickly?
Mm,
Quickly,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's all about their movements. And so it's like, what am I like, for example, the movements that I gave y'all in room 214, you realize she was high strung. Not just with the words she said, like the way her back was against the wall, the way she
Mm-hmm.
was described. So it was very important for me to describe Ava as being ashamed, right?
Mm.
Not unconfident.
No.
She knows she a bad girl,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Eliza was unconfident,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ava's confident, but she's ashamed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you know, also, so one of my husband's earliest critiques of my work was from 3 Months in Accra. He's like, you're so comfortable describing imagery and what somebody's thinking. They don't talk enough dialogue. I had to go back and add more dialogue in that book.
Mm,
But I feel as a writer, I'm more confident describing the motions, the movements, the scenery than the dialogue.
mm-hmm.
I'm still working on
Mm-hmm.
dialogue, but I spent a lot of time trying to convey that. Even when I'm talking about and I wanted you to know um that he was this confident being, right? It's the way
Mm-hmm.
he's presenting. He's larger than life, and not just his physical appearance, but his persona, his
Mm.
aura.
Yeah, I can see that. You, this book reminds me of that painting. Well, Ava reminds me of the painting with the lady on the side of the bed and she's just tired.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody sees it. She's just alone in the room, just tired. That one black painting of the black woman in the painting, and she's tired.
Mm-hmm.
But outside the walls, everybody, she got that shit together.
Mm-hmm. They say
That,
check on your strong friend.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
revisiting O forces Ava to confront who she was before ambition, hardened
Mm-hmm.
edges, and all. Do you believe love can reconnect us to versions of ourselves we abandoned?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I said it so quickly, absolutely, because before all of this success, before her inhibition, she was able to let go with 10 years ago, right?
Mm,
And she's still that girl deep down.
mhm.
I'm just a girl in the world. She's still just a girl in the world.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And her deciding to text yes, it's about the physical embodiment of exploration and sensation, but it was also her giving herself permission to be the person she was before the success. Right? It's a double
Mm,
entendre, right? Like before the
mm.
success, you didn't feel too good to get in a random Bentley that she
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have.
yeah.
But somewhere along because here's the thing, she had his number the whole time. So you have to ask yourself, why did it take you 10 years to use it? Why? Because for the last 10 years, you let the world convince you that successful women look like this, successful women behave like this,
You
right?
know what? Yep, yep.
The
Yep.
number didn't change. And notice, right? People are like, why was he watching her? Is he some type of creep? I mean, or he was just like, we went public online. He was just tracking her over the years. Like, okay, sum cum laude, okay, CEO, okay, whatever. But that back is still, it's still real stiff.
Right, right. But I mean, he knew what he wanted though.
Yeah, he did. He
He knew
did.
what he wanted. You
He
know,
did.
she had to find what she wanted
Yeah.
because she
And he
thought,
had to let her find it. He had to let her go to let her find it. Because he
yeah,
very well, 10 years ago, you can tell that she was one of his favorite partners, right? Like you can
mm,
tell that. He could have, like, you ain't going nowhere, you belong to me. But I don't want
right.
it like that. I need you to live, explore. I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what my needs are. I know what my role is here. You have to figure
Mm.
that out. And 10 years later, it was so much sweeter because she was able to voice and say things and answer things. Like by the time they get to the
Ooh.
massage, you gotta, like, it was already in her to start moving things around. And so, when my
It was a
husband read the
lot in
book,
her.
he was like, oh, it's a switch. And I said, oh, I was like, this whole time, he's been trying to get her to tap into that dominant side. He knew it was there the whole time.
Yes.
He knew it.
When she took control, it was like a hallelujah moment. It was a hallelujah moment. Now, don't get me wrong, because nasty shit was nasty. Look here. I commend you on all the nasty good shit, nasty stuff. Cause I was like, well, shit, teach me something, goddamn it. I liked all that, but it's just when a woman reclaims her shit,
Yeah. It's
that's the
sexy. It really
sexiest
is.
shit
It is.
ever.
It's sexy. It is.
That shit is
Mm-hmm.
sexy. So, how did this collaboration experience for you creatively and emotionally?
Oh yeah. So I'll say this. I started as a reader in this space, which is very affirming because I felt like there were people who just I genuinely had community with, and it was like, okay, I'll try your work, I'll promote
Mm-hmm.
it. But you need birds of a feather flock together. You need like mind creatives, and so if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have some author friends, you need some. Period,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to push each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it meant the difference that all three of us debuted all at the same time, and so
Mm-hmm.
we were really excited. And sometimes people get to the point they're all their projects are planned for the year, but we
Mm-hmm.
were very hungry, like we can move whatever around, right? And so um it really started out with, you know CM had the first time I remember Enigma took social media by storm, so I was
Mm-hmm.
seeing it everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I read it, and it's funny that when you read people's work, you I'm still a reader girl, so you're still a little nervous to reach out to somebody. But we happened to be on Threads. I had posted a picture of me and my sorority stuff for tea, and she was like, Soror, right? So, and I believe I seen something of hers too. And so we just kind of connected that way. And then
Mm-hmm.
she introduced me to DH, and DH was writing Sky High at the time. And let me tell you, nobody does yearning like DH Renfro,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like DH Renfro really does the yearning. Like ooh, right? So, um, the collab came together very seamlessly, like literally within a day. We had the covers, the titles, the whole idea of the spinning the block. It came together really seamlessly. And I have been grateful for that space
Mm-hmm.
because it's really been an affirming space,
Right.
like us encouraging each other to go as deep as we can, even to
Mm-hmm.
write outside of our comfort zone, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even though CM Barnes is really great with erotica, this is a different type of erotica for her. So we
Mm-hmm.
all went very different than what we were used to. And I'm not just saying this, but it's the 2 a.m. series is one of the best series I think y'all gonna read all year. It's because what you get is you get a definitive style from each of us, and none of the books are anything like each other, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like stylistically, that's what I want. That's what you yearn. Like what is your creative interpretation? And we all interpreted the prompt in three different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in mine, you have spin the block, but on people
Mm-hmm.
who were really strangers to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And the second one, you actually had a couple who was split, right? They didn't do long distance relationship, and now it's workplace romance. And the third, you quite literally have a couple who's divorced because he was an awful husband to her, and he
Mm.
just happens to see um her and her now girlfriend online looking for a third,
Mm.
right? And so he conceals his identity to get up on in there. So it's just you just have three completely different interpretations of what our theme was, and it just
Mm.
made for a good nasty, just nasty. Okay, you know, DH is all sweet looking, but 123 is nasty. 206 is nasty, but y'all expect that from CM Barnes. It was a nasty great time.
And
Yeah.
include yourself.
Okay, so I seen a review today that was like, "Oh, this book 109 had me blushing for real," and I'm like, "Me, I had y'all blushing for real." That's so, for
Girl, quit
real.
playing. Quit playing. So, I'm finna deviate from the books and talk about some political topics.
Okay.
So today we had a lot of shit that happened in the black community. From Don Lemon getting arrested, Georgia Ford being arrested. But we also had a white reader, bless her fucking pasty heart, made racist comments, discouraging comments about Legendborn by Tracy Dion, while still praising on her page openly racist, turf people, homophobic authors. How does this look when you're an author, a black author, expanding into broader markets, complicate things when bias shows up disguised as critique? Because her thing was, I'm DNF in this book because this woman, even though she was born colored, yeah,
That's a
exactly.
direct quote. Oh
That's
my
a direct
gosh.
quote.
Okay. Okay.
Um, we don't have slaves anymore. So how do you want as a black author, and I had to ask myself this today because I'm still trying to find the answer. How do you as a black author who wants you have the backing of the black community, they support you, but you want to broaden to the masses, but then you have readers like this that take it upon themselves to say a DNF is a critique, but it's really not a critique.
Yeah. Oh, when bias shows up as a critique, that's good. So let me first off say again, this is music related.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want nothing that doesn't feel good to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
I, as much as I want, and I need to be clear here, as much as I want to be on the shelves in Barnes and Nobles and at
Mm-hmm.
Walmart and be more accessible, because I recognize that some people don't ever want to buy anything off of Amazon. Let's be clear. Let's not act
Yeah.
like Bezos is right. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and Amazon is that's such a topic itself for independent authors because we know it gives Black folks the autonomy, but it's like I'm also participating in this capitalistic monopoly. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
it's a whole
That's a
topic in
whole
itself.
thing.
I really want to be more accessible to other people, but not if it costs me my soul. I need to
Mm.
be very clear. My books will remain blackity black, 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 black. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not water down, change down, dilute. I got some pretty heinous comments, 1 star left under 3 months in a cry because I talked about slave castles. All historical facts, but just because I talked about it,
That's
right?
facts though.
I know it's facts. But the reason why I bring that up is there's so much racism covered up as critiques.
Mm.
Okay? So much from readers. I actually had to download Opal on my phone and lock how much I can get on social media because it absolutely gets into the mind of the writer, right?
Mm.
I'm sensitive. And what did you say? I'm an artist. I'm Erica Badu. I'm an artist and sensitive about my shit. I'm sensitive. So I stay off of those platforms. But it doesn't change the fact that an artist can do everything they need to do to
Mm.
not put it in their spirit, but it's still thwarting some of the opportunities that we're getting.
Yeah.
And so when I see stuff like that, it reminds me we need more Black literary agents, more
Mm-hmm.
Black publishing houses like Black Odyssey Media. We need more things, right? Where we're going to dilute the voices or at least water down the voices of people that are trying to stop us from getting in the room. Because these critiques, although they're disguised as critiques, it's stopping our authors from getting to the pinnacle and the places that we need to get to. And let's face it, we're good enough and our
Mm-hmm.
writing is good enough to be there already.
Mm. Mm.
Period.
So, how do you protect your work and your spirit while navigating readers who consume Black stories that aren't Black and but resist Black voices?
I'm going to be very honest with you here. I don't know how to protect my spirit yet.
Mm.
And I'm going to be honest with you. That's the main reason why I have Opal on my phone that locks how much I can go on social media. And to be clear, I'm not searching my name on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you're a lover of books, when you're a
Mm-hmm.
bibliophile and that's all you search for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your algorithm is filled with it. And I need to stop and acknowledge that Legendborn is one of the best written fantasy books that
Mm-hmm.
I've ever read in my entire life, period. And
Mm-hmm.
I've read the classics.
Mm-hmm.
I've read the George R. R. Martins. I've read the Tolkien's. I've read them
Mm-hmm.
all. It is so good. The way she took a story, King Arthur, that was not meant for us in any way, in any
Mm-hmm.
shape, any form. And she found a way to remain true to the story and she centered Blackness. No, you have a and I wouldn't be surprised if the person actually finished it and didn't actually DNF it. You didn't like that a young Black girl was the focus and you didn't like that white men were fighting over her. Call a spade a spade. That's what you didn't like about that book.
So let's be clear, because I would hate to take a woman's words, um, and put something on it. Because what she said, chat, and everyone that's in the background, unfortunately, I will be DNFing Legendborn. I simply can't take the racism card. The main character consistently talks about how these white people want to own her. And in my personal opinion, that's just the arrogance of an author who was born colored. I'm sorry that people of color feel this way, but not every white person is that way. Some of us are decent human beings who work hard and don't believe that they are any better than a person of color. Slavery is a horrible concept, but we haven't owned slaves or thought that we were better than any in years. No, I don't think I'm better than anyone. I'm white because I'm white.
When people say stuff like that, they have no idea. I don't want to say they have no idea. They're choosing to ignore systematic racism, right? So I wrote my whole dissertation
Mm-hmm.
um, on the HOLC system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's specifically how, in the 1930s, after the Great Depression, that legislation, the New Deal legislation, mapped areas in all major cities and they
Mm-hmm.
named areas A, B, C, D based on if the area was livable. You
Mm-hmm.
guessed it. All the areas where white folks lived and there was some money in the suburbs, they named A as being affluent or B as being okay, C as being declining, D as being red. That's where redlining comes from. And of course, all the areas
Oh,
where the
I'm from
black folks
Chicago.
live, right?
I know.
Were all labeled as C and D areas. But what
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize is the school systems that started popping up, right? Or, and again, I don't want anybody to confuse this with I'm not pro choice. Send your child to whatever school you want to, but the charter schools that are aimed at one specific thing that might not be outperforming public schools, they started placing them in C and D neighborhoods and wondering why our kids started failing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I say that because there's a difference between de jure racism, right, and de facto racism, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
people, you might not watch people walk down the street and say N word this, N word that, although they might depending
Mm-hmm.
on where you live. But the systematic structures, the fact that it's hard for black people to own housing, the fact that I know black attorneys and black doctors who don't own homes,
No.
okay? That
No.
is systematic, okay? When people are choosing to say, oh, we're not racist anymore. We don't own slaves anymore. It's a choice because you're choosing not to look at systems, right? And so
Yeah.
the interesting thing about that person's critique on that book is I read that book in a book club space. And as much as people enjoyed it from the Black community, a lot of people were frustrated that it took to book two to really get in the helm of the racism that Bree was experiencing in that book. So
Hmm.
to say that big book one was a big read um on her like targeting, no, Bree's character was actually too trusting of the people she was
Yeah.
around in that circle in book one. You went into that seeing a Black woman have incredible success, seeing a Black woman have a traditional five publishing deal, seeing a Black woman have money behind her post, seeing a whole bunch of hype, right, over that book, and you went in inherently negative, determined not to like it. The same way people go into an erotica is knowing that they are suppressed themselves and still read it and leave terrible reviews everywhere and shame people for what they like or what they choose to read.
Hmm.
She went in there inherently, right? And
Hmm.
so as an author, I'm going to be honest with you, I have not decided, I have not perfected how to protect my peace yet,
Yeah.
right? I'm learning.
Yeah. You are.
I do hope one day to be traditionally published, but I know for me, it's going to take a literary agent. It's going to take somebody who as passionate as my work and not trying to water it down in any way. And
Yeah.
unless I get that in this space, you'll find LB where you find LB now.
And I commend you for that, for saying that I haven't found my peace yet. Because a lot of people haven't, and they take social media and the things like this about books that we love, about our own books, they take it to heart, and it mentally destroys them. There's been times in this space where I've been in now 3 years that I've seen authors just bow out. They don't bow gracefully; they just bow out. You know. So,
Mhm.
if one thing I can say to you, find your peace. Find your peace. Find your sweet spot where you can tune that shit out, and it's just like tunnel vision, and everything's moving around you, but you don't see shit. You like motherfucking
Mhm.
Ray Charles around this bitch.
I think a part of that's a good team. So like this morning I woke up and the city of Pittsburgh's in a state of emergency with the snow, and
Mhm.
somebody must have slid, and they slid my one car into my other, told on my first car, and then our second family car slid. Like I was so upset this morning, and my editor said, "Oh my goodness, baby, I'm so sorry. I still need chapter 5 before you close your eyes tonight." So I swear, promise you. So, baby, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry that happened, right? And so you have to, again, I'm from outside Philly. I moved to Pittsburgh later, but you got to see it with a clear eye view,
Mhm.
So I'm grateful. I can't take all the credit for that. I think who your team is means a
Mhm.
lot. Um, Keeping you grounded, keeping you focused on the goal, and I want y'all to know I crash out every day. I quit being an author every day. And
Me
I tell
too.
my favorite thing to say is I'm taking a break after this. I'm taking 2 weeks off, a week off. Next day, my editor is like, "Okay, what you writing about today?" Because she knows I'm fibbing, right? And you know,
Yeah.
I, I think to be emotional about something means you really care about it.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah,
If you could fast forward 5 years from now, what do you wish your career looks like creatively and personally?
yeah. I think I have two big goals. One, I want my art to outlive me.
Mm.
Um, and I think about of course it's sad to get your flowers after you're not here. You want your flowers here while you can smell them. But I also think about how much of a blessing it is that some of the greats arts are feeding their children and their grandchildren. Right?
Mm.
That's that generational wealth, but for something positive, not for
Yeah.
owning folks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that's my biggest goal always, right? Like I love that my 3-year-old is like, Mom, she says, Mama, are you writing a book? Yes, I'm writing a book, right? One day you'll be able to read it, but I love that she knows that. Um, and then my second goal is for my art to be able to sustain me, right? And
Mm.
so, I no longer work that toxic CEO job anymore, but
Yeah.
I still have to teach classes in adjunct, and I still have to take grant contracts. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining because I'm grateful to be able to do that. And I'm
Mhm.
grateful that all of my jobs all of the jobs that I currently have is by design, that I'm either talking about writing, teaching about literature, and I think it helps me be sharper for what I am writing. But
Mhm.
it takes time. It takes from my creative time. It takes me away from my characters, and so
Mhm.
those are my two biggest goals. I
Mhm.
want my art to sustain me, and I want it to outlive me.
So what's next for you? Like book wise, what's next? What we
So
getting? What we getting?
So so next month y'all are getting the very first book I ever wrote, and it's been edited, and I even went back when I published a few things, and I learned a little something about writing, and I redid and I re-edited, and I but y'all are getting Bulletproof Love, and it is a second chance romance. It is about two people from the complete opposite sides of life, right?
Mm.
Xavier has an X. His name is X, or Xavier has a really rough upbringing from the south side of Crestwood. It's a made up place that's inside of LB, the state of LB. Um, and you have Chanel, or Channy, which they call her, who is, the typical preppy suburban girl. She's at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's 2006, and so they meet. She's at a party and they meet because he's playing Michael Jackson's Name on the Wii, and she joins him, right? And so to watch their love, it's so pure, right?
Mm.
So much of the book takes place through letters. He gets a 20-year bid, and I don't want to give too much away, but I call Xavier my lover boy, but don't get it
That
twisted.
sounds so romantic.
It's just you see me cheesing. I love everything about the Crestwood Chronicles. It's going to be 3 books. I actually
Mhm.
just wrapped book 2. Um, so I'm excited about it. I think
Mm.
this is going to be different from me. So the first 2 projects in 2026 are completely different genres than what you're used to from me.
Mhm.
Y'all will get that. If you're part of my Substack, I'm building Becoming Sephi, and I'm at Sephi in 3 months in a class. So that's a
Mhm.
Substack exclusive. They get 2 chapters a week. And they also will be getting a surprise St. Patty's Day drop, because in LB Universe, my black characters will celebrate whatever holiday they want the blackest way
Mhm.
they know how.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
it's a cute little short, but that was so much fun to write. It's called Just My Luck. And
Mm.
you know, so
Okay. So where can readers purchase your books?
yeah, I would say always go to my website directly. Not only will your books be signed, but there's just certain touches, stickers, bookmarks,
Mhm.
postcards, little love letters and trinkets you get from me. And when you support an author directly, they receive your funds now. They receive more. They receive the mass majority of the funds. So if you can order directly, um, my books are also available on Amazon, and they're also on Kindle Unlimited. And so I understand everybody's at a different price point. So
Yeah.
if you got to start my work on Kindle Unlimited, that's fine. Just leave a review,
Yeah.
If you're artistic, make a graphic. If not, get in front of the camera and tell us how much you love it. My dog is barking because he loves my work. He loves his mama. Um, yeah, I'm also on Substack. I love it. I think
Oh,
Substack,
I love Substack.
I have both a paid and a free, and I'm active on both. But I think the Substack gives you the behind the scenes of whys to my books, and
Yeah.
you get my process more. And I think that's important. And then of course I'm on Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on Threads only because Threads is too distracting, baby. I got books to write. I'd be scrolling for hours, and my editor would be like, "That could have been 3 chapters."
Man.
But
Man.
still talk about my work on Threads. Tell the people on Threads if you read an LB book.
So, what upcoming events will you be attending?
Oh, I'm at so many. So my next event is Black Romance Book Fest. I in Atlanta, Georgia, at the end of May, May 28th, June 1st, I believe. I will
Mhm.
be at Rep Your City in Ohio, because that's right up the road for me. I'm really excited.
Mhm.
That's Aisha Bashar's event in Dayton, Ohio.
Mhm.
I will be at that was I got to think. I'll jump to November. Because I'll be at a few events as a reader, so you might see me at
Mm,
some reader events. Say hey, because I'm still just a girl. I'll be at Books on the Ground in November, the first
mm.
week of November, and I'll also be at Bookmark Her. That'll be the last event I attend of the year in Huntsville, Alabama, the second week of November.
Okay, okay. Drop your social media handles and your website so the people know where they can follow you and keep up with you.
I'm LB Gaines, the author everywhere. So that quite literally is my website. Just add a .com on the back of that. That's me on TikTok, Instagram, Substack, and you'll find me on Facebook as just LB Gaines.
Okay, so let me get your outro out the way, do a few announcements, and I'll let you get out of here.
Okay.
LB Gaines writes the kind of love stories that don't flinch, stories that sit in longing, honor memory, and tell the truth about how hard love can be and how necessary it is. Her work reminds us that Black love isn't fragile, tidy, or disposable. It's resilient, it's scarred, and it's worth saving. Make sure you grab her books, follow her across her social medias, and sit with these stories the way you would your favorite R&B track on repeat late at night, feeling everything. And this is Black Girl Tired Book Talk. And as I always say, stay love, stay loud, and stay black on motherfucking purpose.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem.